About my experiences over the past six plus years teaching here, and I'd like to just start with an image. This is a statue of Lady Justice, and this is on the top of the Central Criminal Court in London, England. Maybe some of you have been there. If you've ever been to St. Paul's Cathedral, this is just down the street. And the Central Criminal Court is also known as Old Bailey. There's a lot of important things that occur there. But I have this statue here because it symbolizes a lot. And it's sort of, for an academic, you sort of need both these tools. You need a sword sometimes to deal with students and other faculty members, and you need balance. And so there's that scale there. And so that's really what I'm going to talk a little bit about, the challenge that I've had over the past, like I said, 6+ years, trying to balance teaching. I'm just focusing on teaching and research. And so let me just start with, when I teach, this is sometimes how it feels. All the students tugging at me. And this is an interesting image. This is an image of members of Al-Shabaab in Somalia. And they're having this festive sort of gathering of sports and athletics. And so anyway, I just thought it really showed quite well what it's like teaching, because our teaching load, this is a teaching university. So our load, I know we're fortunate in our department, political science department, our teaching load is only 7 courses a year. It's a little bit below the 9, I guess is the standard. But it's still a lot. It's still a lot. And I'll explain what I mean when you see some more numbers. So this is what it feels like for me when I'm teaching. And when I research, this is sort of how it feels like. I'm almost in the ocean, and I'm almost really happy and in a peaceful place where I could just focus and I'm tranquil. But I'm a little off balance. I'm like that tree. This tree. I'm basically, I feel like I can't really do everything I want to do because I have these students tugging at me. And so just thinking about the past, like I said, 6+ years, I wanted to illustrate what I've done. So I had to do a little bit of number crunching. I'm not a quantitative analysis. Talked to my department chair, Dr. Brian Janisky. He's the quantitative analysis. He does methods. And so I just did a very simple analysis of my 6+ years of teaching here. And so 6+ years, I could just capture it in one image. And it's not, I guess 7 years now, if you include this year. It's not the most sexy, but this is what it looks like on an Excel spreadsheet. And let me just explain. So I came here in the fall quarter of 2007. And so this is every quarter, and this is broken up by academic year. These are all the courses that I've taught, with a couple minor exceptions. This is undergraduate directed study or independent study. This is graduate directed studies. These are the numbers in these cells are the numbers of students. These are the number of courses that I've taught per quarter and per academic year, and then the full-time equivalent, so basically the total number of students that I've had to interact with over the course of each quarter and each academic year. And I highlighted a couple things here in terms of the numbers I've taught 2 courses here, international relations and international politics, the most number of times, 7 times. And also, I've only had to teach 3 classes. I know I'm very fortunate, but I've only had to teach 3 classes per quarter 4 times. But if you see here, the total number of courses I've taught over the past about less than 7 years, over 40 courses. That does not include these undergraduate directed studies and the graduate, and that's sort of a lot, 15 graduate directed studies. And so that doesn't include that. And on your right-hand side, I have my publications. So this is where I'm bringing in a little discussion of what I've produced academically. So I'm focusing just on academic journal articles, book chapters, and books. And so I've also published smaller things like book reviews and the like. So I'm just focusing on what in our academy we consider scholarly research. books, journal articles, maybe book chapters. And so just looking at when I published, I tried to place it when they were published and to see if there's any type of relationship. I won't use the word correlation because I don't know statistics. But there's really, it's sort of deceptive because when things are published, as all of the faculty know, is not when you actually did the research. You're doing it many years, in some cases, or months in advance. And so, on average, over the past 6 years, not including this quarter, I've published one scholarly piece per year. And I guess that's okay. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's something. But let me just focus your attention on the far right here. And those are publications related to my Kenya book that came out in 2010. And so 4 of the publications that I produced basically were spawned from my Kenya book. And so if you strike that, I've really only done 2 things, and those 2 things early on I basically did before I came here. They were published when I was here. So this is, I don't know, for me, I basically haven't done a whole lot of research because of the teaching requirements in my department. And although there is some good news, even though there's a big 0 here after I got tenure, big 0, there next spring, Dr. Murray and I were just speaking about it when I got here, I will have a couple publications, and one is a book, and one is a 3-volume book set. And so that's what is coming soon to Amazon or whatever bookstore to use it. But again, this is somewhat deceptive as well. I was a lead editor for the first 2 volumes, which is a lot of work, but I didn't actually do the research. I was interacting and communicating and working on my management skills over the past several years. And my book on Maoist China in these 3 African countries was really, that's the research I did during my PhD time. And so, again, I haven't really done a lot of original research since I've been here, original scholarly research. And so I'm just going to just wrap this up real quick. I don't have a lot of solutions. I don't make a lot of decisions in my life. But one solution, or basically, is a reality, is focusing on teaching as opposed to research, or focusing on research as opposed to teaching. For me, I haven't found a balance where I could do both well, and I'm doing both in an adequate way, and I would like to hear any suggestions on how to do both in a better than adequate way. So with that, this is how I feel. I'm like this little doggy on just trying to make my way through my academic life. And that's it. That gives you a sense of how I try to balance.
But actually balance. I'm sure everybody feels that way, that we're all juggling different things. At any moment, the ball just going to drop, and so it's hard. But I just have a quick question for Donovan, and then we'll move on to the next presenter. So you talk about, trying to find a balance about teaching and research, either teach less, research better, or research, or teach more, research less. And I know that because you're a very well-loved student, because I have heard students talk about after they took your class or something, you make them feel so hungry. They have this insatiable hunger for Asian food or something after they take your politics in East Asia or something, because you're so engaging, right? So and I know, for example, you added those volumes. You are very prolific, book publisher and editor and also writer. So to what extent does the book you publish that help you enhance your own teaching?
It's a good question. Because of the courses that I teach, I don't really use a lot directly from my research. There's actually a divide. Mm-hmm. And of course, from time to time, I deliver lectures that are related to what I'm researching, but it's usually not directly related to the course, the main aim of a course. Mm-hmm. So that's still something I'm struggling with. I guess I feel somewhat not comfortable just teaching what I'm researching, because that's not really the content that I want to get across in the course, given the student body, whether it's the undergraduate or graduate level. So it's, I don't really do it a lot. It's more an exception from time to time. For example, probably Monday night in my Terrorism in Africa class, I might lecture something on China and Africa, particularly in China and North Africa, because later in the week I'll be in Washington, D.C. speaking on a roundtable about great powers in the Arab uprisings. So I might do something like that because I just need to prepare, but I don't really feel like it's directly related. And so I guess to a very little extent would be my direct answer. And maybe I need to be more creative, or talk to my department chair and see what kind of courses we're offering. But as all the faculty know, there's a dynamic within the faculty and within the curriculum. What we're trying to teach, what we're researching isn't always the same. And generally speaking, it's not the same. Not the same.
So, like for example, when you were researching or doing editing your volume, because you were absorbing new material, but would that help you in terms of your teaching? For example, when you're teaching politics in East Asia, that actually maybe it's not about your book, but at least you are more, more aware, in tune with the more recent research material, because you have to research yourself, or you have to read a different article yourself. They kind of help you update your material, bring more new content to your own teaching.
I think it provides, specifically to the 3-volume book set on China and international security, it's given me a broader background on what I teach, whether it's East Asian politics or comparative politics in East Asia or regional security of East Asia. But again, the volume itself is quite specific. One volume is more historical, and one is more related to domestic internal security matters. So I don't directly leverage, it's more indirectly. I can use my role as an editor to gain knowledge, but again, that's research that others have done, and I don't really use that for my content. I just use it for my own background. But I'm happy to hear any suggestions on how more directly to use my research in teaching. Questions?
Actually, you said a suggestion. What has helped me is change my research areas. I made them broader. So maybe it's easier for my field. I teach in public finance, public administration. So rather than focusing on specifics, what my interest was, I just made it broader. Let's say institutional theory, organizational theory, or public finance at at federal level. Something that I can use for my courses. This way, I actually have to change my own research to be able to do both.
Okay,
But that's the only thing that worked for me.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
It might be easier for my case.
I do feel when I'm teaching, since I've been teaching here since fall of 2007, I've taught a lot of different things. And my preference would actually be to teach fewer things, but teach them more in depth. But I know that's not necessarily the nature of our university here. But I appreciate that, and I'll definitely think about that moving forward. Other questions? Yeah.
Teaching and research is very important relations. When I come to CSUSB, some people told me CSUSB is focused more on teaching, is it right? You give a new lecture about your research and teaching, so I changed my idea. CSUSB is more interested in research. Your mean is teaching and research you divided. And at some point extent, I agree with you. Research and teaching, you can't deal with a good relationship. You can't combine with these two things because sometimes you use more energy focus on teaching. Teaching is the plan of the instruction. Researching is by your interest. In China, many teachers, visiting scholars have the same problem. Some universities, principals more focus on research, those teaching. Some students is not satisfied. Some because the evaluation system more focus on the research. Some teachers is good at research, but not good at teaching. Some teachers good at, on the other side is the same time. I want to ask a question, how do you deal with this problem? Thank you.
It's a very good question. I don't think I have an answer to that. It's
Yes.
basically
Yes.
I'm teeter-tottering like that dog. I'm sort of running from one side to another. During the academic quarter, I still try to do research, but obviously energy needs to be spent in the classroom, preparation, mentoring, and trying to help students. But I would say, just a point of clarification, our university is a teaching university as opposed to maybe a University of California school, a UC school is a research. So some of the professors there, they don't have to teach that much. They have teaching assistants. But here at our university, it is a teaching focus. But it's a good question, because even if you were the best teacher here on campus, I don't think necessarily you might get promotion and tenure. You still have to research, you still have to produce something. And that's a challenge that new faculty and more senior faculty still are trying to grapple with. So I don't know if there's an answer, but Dorothy, did you have a
Well,
comment?
what I was going to say is that that's a very good question. Maybe we can do it as a panel discussion at the end to see how everybody approached to deal with that, instead of putting poor Donovan on the spot.
Basically, I gave you
Trying to
my
solve the
answer
problem.
with my dog at the end here. Yes.
Not everybody trying to find that balance.
Although I'll do another advertisement for my research. That's my answer, is just trying to balance something that's very difficult to balance.
Yes, yeah. I'm sure all of us feel that way. You know, I've been teaching here for 13 years now, and I still feel like I'm that dog. At any moment, any second, I'm just gonna fall off the little thing there.
Good, thank you very much.
Donovan. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Dr. Dorothy Chen-Maynard, and then,
I don't have a fun slides like this, so we're just going to chat a little bit. I'm Dorothy Chen-Maynard. I am probably one of the most senior faculty here. I've been here since 1992, so I'm starting my 22nd year. And I'll tell you a little bit about my background, and then maybe look at to see how my classes are the way they are, and then why I am more into service rather than research. So anyway, I was born originally in Burma. I came to the United States in 1969, and I think many of you weren't even born at that time yet. So the main thing here is that, you know, when I started at CSUSB, it's always been a teaching emphasis. And so, yes, I wish that I had Donovan's assigned time of 7 courses a year. I actually teach about 12 classes a year because of many of the lab courses. And so I teach, my students aspire to become a registered dietitian. So as a registered dietitian, they have to learn 5 broad areas. So one is a basic nutrition. We also have food science courses. And then we also have medical nutrition therapy. And then they also learn about food service. So they learn how to run a facility in the food service area. And then they also have to learn community nutrition. So in the 2 years that we have them as a captive in the program, they learn all of those 5 areas. And then to become a registered dietitian, not only you have to finish a bachelor degree, you have to do a 1,200 hours of internship, or what we call supervised practice, and then they take the national exam. So the 22 years I've been here, when I started in '92, we had 28 majors. Today we have 240 majors, and still only 2 faculty. Okay, so you can see what our class load looks like. This quarter I'm dying because I have 3 classes, 2 classes with 65 students, and all the assignments that we still have to do. And then I have 3 labs at 2 units apiece. So I'm teaching 5 classes this quarter. So I'm dying, yes. But how do you balance that? So one of the things that I still am very involved in the community, doing various activities as my registered dietitian role and as a faculty. So what we have done this year is that we actually started a nutrition and food sciences program out of Palm Desert. So guess what that means? I'm going to be now managing 2 programs in 2 different locations. And so how did I get involved in Palm Desert? Because my husband is doing administrative work out there, teaching. We started a freshman class out there. So nutrition makes like a very good sense to bring it out there because there's a big obesity issue as well as a lot of chronic diseases out in Palm Desert. So there's going to be a big need for dietitians out there. So yes, and we need bilinguals. So the Spanish speaking students are out there. And we all know that if the students are trained in one area, they tend to stay there rather than brain drain, where they go elsewhere to learn how to do it. So in addition to that, I have started an internship program for this fall. And that requires accreditation based on what we have. So our program is accredited, so every 5 years we have to write this report. And I do all of this without assigned time. So you want to talk about balancing. I'm here 7 days a week pretty much, 4 months a year. So I do it mostly because of the students. It's good for them to get through all of that. So how does my research fit into it? I don't have much of a research. As a doctorate student at UC Davis, I did my research in breastfeeding. So I've always been interested in looking at how the breast milk impact the child's health. And so one thing that Dr. Phelan in my department and I have gotten together with the nursing faculty is that we're going to start a project where we're actually going to look at what are the environmental contaminations that we can find in breast milk. And so particularly the water. And we know that right near Norton Air Force Base here, they had a lot of organics and minerals that were dumped into the system. So the wells down there are contaminated. So we're going to get into a project where we're going to look at how we can collect breast milk in the start of the breastfeeding and then look at those compounds. The reason for that is as women breastfeed, initially it takes a lot of energy. So her body mobilizes more of her fat stores in order to make the milk. So if we collect the milk in the beginning, we can look to see what is stored in her fat without going into invasive punch biopsy of looking at the fats. So it's an indirect way of looking at it, but nevertheless it allows us to then look to see what the effects of the water and the food they eat in that environment affect what the milk that they produce. So that's my research. Now, I'm still an associate professor because I haven't published. So my goal this year is that to get that publication in so I can go up to become full professor. My husband will keep pushing me. The thing here is that I do a lot of service. For example, I do a lot of the kids activity. So we got involved with the kids club out at Indio as an after-school program. So I have one of my students out there to run the program. I supervise the student to make sure that they do cooking classes, they do nutrition education twice a week. And so that way we teach kids from 5 years to 15, 18 years, so kindergarten to, and this is the after-school program in the community of Indio, which is a very poor community. So we go out there and we have the kids teach them how to cook using nutritious ingredients and dishes, and then we talk about different nutritional content of that dish that they make today. So hopefully they can then take it home to teach the parents that there are different ways of cooking. So as you know, one of the major things here is that we have children who are obese, adults who are obese, and so we want to integrate that obesity information to start with the children, teach them how to do it so they can then teach the parents how to do it. And many of the parents out there don't speak English. So actually this Thursday, they are doing a parent night. So we're going to bring the parents, actually not this Thursday, next Thursday, the 21st. So I'm going out to Indio to actually work with the parents to try to see if we can get them to come up with a dish that we can, and the kid can actually prepare for the parents to serve that night. So it's a great way to, food, as you know, as they say, a ways to a man's heart is through his stomach. But I always say that it's a ways to a person's heart is through the stomach, because when you give them food, you can always make that environment a little less formal and then more conducive to teaching. So I'm also involved with a lot of the different foundations to raise money to get these programs implemented into the community. On campus, I serve the community on the campus we have a nutrition counseling service where my seniors do the nutrition counselings in pair 2 hours a week. And so it's open to students, faculty, and staff. They can come in, they can talk about their diet, and the students will then help to improve the way they eat. And so if whatever eating issues that they have, obesity, want to eat better, we work on those. And so we get a lot of referral from the fitness center, health center, and then just through the advertisement. So you probably, by the time I tell you all the things I do, you probably will be as tired as I am. But nevertheless, to me, again, anything I can get my students involved in any level, it's a good way for them to learn, because classroom knowledge is one thing. But when they take that classroom knowledge into the community or into the application, that's when they're going to learn the most. And so, this quarter I'm teaching a class called Nutritional Biochemistry. It's one of the hardest in the program, because not only they have to learn biochemistry, they also have to learn physiology, and they also have to learn nutrition. And we learn all of how everything fits into the body. So they're dying. They have the second exam today. And so, but anyway, we've been doing a lot of review sessions. I do like 3 review sessions a week for them this last week and this week to get them ready. So we'll see how the exam goes. I'm also the faculty advisor for Nutrition Student Association. So which means is that they are doing a lot of activities. This year we didn't do caramel apple. Every year we do caramel apple and around Halloween time. So this year I had to go to Chicago for Haku meeting, so we didn't do that. But instead what the students, actually it's a great fundraising event for those of you who are faculty advisor, is that you can go to TV taping and you get $20 to $30 a student, a body that shows up. So it doesn't even have to be student. They can bring their mom and dad and boyfriend, girlfriends, And so we're having a big event on December 17th. So we're hoping that we will get about 50 students to go to Burbank for this show taping of Two Broke Girl, and you probably have seen that show. So anyway, so instead of caramel apple, we're going to do that to try to raise the money. And it's a great way for those of you who are faculty advisor to make money quickly for your students as well. I'm involved with the diabetes camp. And so these are the summer camp for children with type 1 diabetes. So I send my students and my interns there. They go live up there for a week with the children with diabetes. So they learn what is it like to deal with, to be a person who is diabetic. So you have to learn how to give shots, you have to learn how to do blood glucose regulation and adjusting all of that to the diet so that they can keep their blood glucose at a constant level. So, but anyway, so the main thing here is that, when we look at, so how do you balance, it's a tough one. Just because, to me, I am so busy doing everything else, and teaching is still my priority. And so that's one of the things that I do, is that whatever I do, it's all related to my students. And I always tell my students, since I don't have any 2-legged children, they are my children. So which means that I'm going to look over their shoulders, I want to make sure they succeed, and set high expectations for them so they will perform well in the classes. And so they appreciate that. So every year they come back and they think that, nutritional biochemistry, why do I need to know all that? But guess what? When they go out there in the hospital, when they go out in the clinic, that's when they realize that that's where you communicate with other allied health professionals. And so it's really sad to me that nursing program had eliminated a lot of the chemistry and biochemistry courses, but that's their loss, our game. So, you kind of have to look at it from the perspective of what is it that you want to do. So this year my emphasis is that to get a couple of publications out. I've been editor for, I've submitted articles to books, I've reviewed books, and the main thing is I just need one original research paper to submit and be published. So hopefully next fall I'll go up for tenure promotion. And so a lot of the things I do, I have served in my professional organization as a president, I've done a lot of things, but all of those count as a professional development. But the main thing is that you still need to have at least 1 or 2 publications. I've had grads, so all of those do count as, but still, 1 publication is what I'm still holding on. So the thing here is that, you just kind of have to look and see, each year, what is it that you're going to focus on? And I think with the new RPT document, you're now going to be able to do that. And so, again, you know, you just need to look at, some of you have children. You got to balance those as well because it's important. And that's what I tell my students. Academic is always number one. You all watch Susie Gorman? She always says people first, right? So that's what you need to look at, is that your children will always, as long as they're young and they need you, you need to concentrate on that. And if it means sometimes that postponing the academics so that you come back to school when your children are a little bit older, that's what you need to do. Because all of us only have 24 hours a day, and I always say you have to sleep for 8 hours. Otherwise you can't function. So, you know, you need to balance all of that and juggle all of that. So you just kind of have to look and see what is it that you want in life. You know, some of us live near campus, so we can be involved. Some of us live far away from campus, so you can be away and have yourself a retreat when you're not here. But the one disadvantage of living only 4 miles from campus is that I'm here pretty much every day. So, but you know, students know they can always find me. And so for me, again, the emphasis is teaching, making sure that your students do well in the community. When they go out and be my colleagues as a dietitian, I can be proud of them as well. So, you know, we just have to look and see what do we want to do. So anyway, I'm going to stop here. I think my time is up. So we'll, you know, the thing is that this is a great community. I love this campus. If it wasn't for here, I probably, you know, wouldn't do what I do today. So, you know, you look at to see, you got kids who grow up and represent the university on their shoulders. That's what makes you proud to do all the things that you do. So, thank you.
Anybody have a quick question for
Sure.
Dorothy? Because Dorothy is a great example of someone who has
Yes,
excellent
that's true.
service. Because you were the faculty senate chair.
Oh, I was a faculty senate chair too, and served on faculty senate for about 12 years.
Yes.
3-year term, and I've also been a CFA president for 3 years. So yeah, I'm still very involved with the CFA, my faculty union, and I still go to the meetings, and I'm also now become involved with California Teacher Association as well. So yeah, lots of things to do, but again, it gives the university you know, a lot of the publicity. And what happened is that when I first started in '92, I went to a local meeting of the Dietetic Association, and I said I need a part-time instructor to teach a food service class at Cal State San Bernardino, and the many students go, I didn't even know there's a Cal State San Bernardino, let alone that you have a nutrition program out there. So we got ourselves a dot on the map right now because of all the activities and all the reputation of our students out there. So, you know, that to me is very important, even though it doesn't get me promoted at this time, but we will get there. I want to be promoted to full professor before I retire so I can get emeritus status. And you have to be a full professor before you can get an emeritus status, so that's my goal. And so that's what I'm going to do for myself. The rest of the stuff, I do it because for the fun of it, as well as for the students.
And also very meaningful. I think when students like learn through experiential learning, I think you tend to have greater impact on them.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then they really know what is it like to be in the community. I have to give you a little story. I do we're going to start a cooking class with the food pantry here in San Bernardino. So I took one of my students with me, and so we're going to start actually Saturdays. We're going to go out there and use the food pantry food to teach them how to use them. So we were talking, and so you have very limited equipment to do the cooking demonstration. So, so we were talking about some of the ingredients. So my student goes, well, don't they have food processor, these families? And I'm looking at her and I go, food processor? They'd be lucky if they have a knife in the kitchen to cook. You know, so some of the students are so naive because they have never been in that environment where people actually live paycheck to paycheck, but they also run out of food. Here in San Bernardino, we're looking at 51% of the population is on welfare. 51%. And so you're looking at many people don't get food. They run out of food by about third week of the month. And food pantries are very, very important because that's where they get the food for the last week. And then our school provide food for the children, so at least they get 2 meals a day, especially at the end of the month, because people don't know how to budget. You know, you go to the market beginning of the month. They buy everything, chips and sodas and stuff, and they use up all the food stamp money. And then by about third week, they have no money left. So it's really, really sad, and people just don't know how to eat well on a budget. And that's what we need to work on.
Okay, Ashley
Thank
has
you.
a question.
Ashley.
I didn't have a question, I had a comment.
Good, okay, thank you.
I will never complain about my schedule again. Seriously, you have set the bar so high, Dorothy. I don't think the rest of us really can.
Well, you know what, we can all complain, but a lot of times, as I tell the students, you can complain all you want, but nobody can, you can't do much about it, only you can control it. So, yes, I can control my schedule, but on the other hand, one of my biggest problems is I can't say no.
Yeah. I can,
Good. So you're controlling your environment, and that's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Excellent.
At the American Council for Teaching of Foreign Languages, but for the sake of time, we'll go and just talk straight on how we managed to bridge all of this. Bless her heart, she has been a mentor to all of us, and sometimes in a
No,
bad
terrible
way.
mentor. No to say no.
Okay, so just to tell you how we have or I have dealt in the issues of bridging all of these. When I came here, I was a part-time lecturer here, and then became a full-time lecturer. So the program grew till I became an assistant professor, and this is when the issue of service and research came in the picture. Now, since I started this on campus, I was doing both the teaching part and the service just because it's just a nature thing. You have a passion for doing it and doing it. But once you became an assistant professor, this is when the research came on top of it. And honestly, looking back at everything, I wish I was still a full-time lecturer. I just wish I was this because I would not have had to deal with the lecturer issue. I've had already 4 publications before that. Some of them are national publications, not like for specialty groups, but really national. Like the Dummies, the Dummies series, Microsoft for Dummies had one called the Quran for Dummies. Okay, but as you know, in that research part, it has to be from the time you become your tenure line when it's gonna start ticking the time. What have you produced after that? So. So it has been a big struggle. It's been 6 years. I did get my tenure and promotion, but thankfully, but I'm still not a full professor. I could apply for 2 years. Honestly, it doesn't really matter if I get it or not.
Oh, we have to become American.
We'll do it together. But so here is what we do. I did have a research agenda. I did already have acceptance for publications with some minor reviews, and I went to my dean. I said, what do you want me to do? Do you want to grow the program, or do you want me to focus on something that is totally personal? Totally personal, and that is also passionate on it. He said, no, go ahead, grow the program. So in order to bridge all of this, you have to do some type of negotiation. What do you guys want? So the program started as a part-time program for the Arabic language program. Today we are bigger than UCLA and UC Berkeley combined. And just to tell you, UCLA has been offering Arabic for the past 65 years. Berkeley has been doing it for 65 years. We have more classes, both in terms of numbers and also in terms of depth and breadth. Depth of how much we reach than the 2 other BA programs in the state of California. So we're very, very proud about this accomplishment. We have also more students in the Arabic program today than all of these 2 other programs combined. Though they have far better, a bigger Arab community there than here. Actually, only about 10 or 20% of our students are Arabs here. 80% of our first students in the programs are not. So to go back, how did we have to negotiate that very sensitive issue of get your tenure, get your publications, but doing? I had to shift my research from something that I was passionate about to something that I was totally impassionate about. Totally hated. But that was very relevant to the teaching, because in our teaching we had to do research. And because we got so many grants, we had to do outcome assessment. We have to show how much students had progressed. And because we had already so much data that we were already testing our students, my research agenda, which I really, really hated anyways, had to deal now suddenly with assessment. Okay, so now instead of what Donovan so beautifully said, you know, what I teach is something and what my passion on research is something totally different. I didn't have that choice. Or you know, I had to make a choice, which sometimes maybe later on I would regret. You know, but I said, you know, let me do all of it. So, class sizes grew, as you said, we're in College of Arts and Letters, so we teach 9 classes. So the way you deal with slavery, really totally modern slavery is. I mean, the way you do it is, you teach a lot, you become very popular, for not us, I mean, the program becomes very popular. You go get grants. When you go get grants, you get some course release. So when you get course release, you can teach instead of 9 classes. Now I teach on average about 6 classes per year. So there goes one for coordinating, and the university loves that because our salaries as a tenure is far higher than, a little bit higher than part-time lecturers. So when you're charging the grant, you charge your grant based on your salary, which is, you know, one third of my salary is paid for. But they take that money, which is about, with the benefits, about maybe $30,000 they take out of me. They go hire 3 lecturers for $15,000. So the university actually makes money on us. Okay, they love that. They love to do that. Okay, so again, bridging that research, service, outreach, and so on. One, you try to be passionate about the program. You take ownership of the program. You grow it a lot. You go get grants so that you can reduce your teaching load. The second thing is you try to align your teaching with your research agenda so that you can use some of that data that you're collecting, that you have to collect anyways for grant purposes, towards the research. The third part is the service, and service has always been strong in our program, and like Dorothy, but I'm nowhere close to Dorothy, but you know, involved at the department, campus level, and then you are involved at the regional level, state level, and then the national level. Today, like you had put Calce San Bernardino, like people know about it, all over the nation and all over the world now, people say, what in the world is happening at Calce San Bernardino? And I'm not joking when I tell you people from Harvard, University of Texas, Austin, BYU, Brigham Young University, which is very, very known for their languages. It's a Mormon school. Very, very strong for that. They fly their experts from there to us to say, what in the world is happening at this small Calce San Bernardino campus, where 51% of our population is on welfare, 35% of our children are malnourished. I mean, we think about, you know, Palestine or, you know, Ethiopia. No, it's in our backyard. Okay, then the outreach part. We had to you know, realize that it is not enough. And you know what? You could publish, and you could go give these great conferences, and I don't want to belittle how important it is, but I've been to these conferences, and it counts as a research, and you're sitting, and there are 3 people, literally 3 people listening to your presentation. I am not joking. In some of the most national conferences attended by 10,000 people, your session, which is counted by your dean and faculty evaluation committee that, you know, checked your thing, your presentation is attended by 3 people, and you're lucky if 10 people ever read your research. When you think about this versus the other things, that impact that you have on your community, the changes of lives of people, growing a program towards sustainability, and this is some of the topics that I wanted to show you, how we grew towards sustainability. And you try to see, what are we valuing? You know, I mean, like, hello, you know, you're paying me $100,000. We don't get paid $100,000, but by the time you put everything, you know, your salary and the benefit, the university is pumping in $100,000 towards you to benefit on your research agenda, 25 people. And I don't think that it is not important. It is important to advance the research, regardless how insignificant it is. But we also have got to talk about our priorities, because we are being slashing education and lowering all of these levels so fast that unless we think about a sustainable model, we're going to kill the future research candidates if we do not come and then bring grants. So for example, the past 6 years, and I wanted to honor the 15 minutes, but I'm going to make it in 10 minutes. So I have 3 more minutes and I'll finish my 10-minute presentation. But the past 6 years, I brought to campus, I mean, I don't want to say but we collectively worked for the Arabic program over $7 million. And that's a lot, because we're not in the sciences field, we're not in engineering, we're not in biology to bring these millions of dollars. We're a language program. And for a language program to bring over $7 million in grants and faculty centers and so on, it's huge. We also were able to save 4 other languages that were dying, that were being cut, because their faculties were not doing it in other campuses. So Persian from Fullerton was being cut, we brought it here. Chinese from Cal State Long Beach was being cut for the summer program, we brought it here. Korean from Cal State LA. I mean, this is Koreatown, where you have so many Koreans in Koreatown and their summer program was not surviving. Now, Korean is taught at Cal State San Bernardino. Persian in the middle of Fullerton, where they have millionaires of Iranian people, are not donating. They're all coming here because we did an infrastructure that allows this whole thing to sustain. And I'll give you just, in terms of outreach, we realized we were able to manage for the Arabic program 19 exceptions for the Arabic that is not granted to any department, period, on campus. Not because they love my blue or black eyes, because we're bringing money, and because we're talking business here. Okay, so for example, there's a university high school program. Okay, any high school students still on the books could come and take a college class, if the class is open, if the students has 3.0. That program, which is okay on the books, has closed because the university is so impacted. We don't have room for our own students. We won't allow high schoolers to come here. That exceptions exist for Arabic. We still today can bring Arabic students to here. So as part of our outreach, we have high schools, not only from San Bernardino, but Riverside and neighboring counties. We have high school students who come to us and get college credit all the way from LA Unified School District, the second largest unified school districts in the nation. They get their college credit, high school, and they come learn from us during the summer or even during the school year. We have it from Pasadena, we have it from Pomona, Claremont, all the way from LA. So this is the issue of outreach. Fine, so to go back to you, how much have I published since I got my before I even got my tenure? 0, so it's okay. Now, 0, but I do have the acceptance for publications. I do have, we accepted your manuscript, just go spend another year to update the data and so on. So I will do it. And we've had a lot of presentations and we've done a lot of consulting. And that issue that I hated, the issues of assessment and so on, has actually landed me many jobs, consulting jobs that gave me more than 1/3 of my salary extra. But that also brought us a lot of grants to our campus because we have been able to do a lot of networking. So I have been able to evaluate 50 other programs in the nation. As a consultant now, expert in assessment. What? The field that I hated so much. So this has been able, this has helped us, brought us a lot of grant, got me extra money, and guess what I do with extra money? And I'm not joking, and I'm not talking about myself. But when you're dying, and you're really, really, truly, truly dying with your work, I pay my own money. Well, and this is the only way to maintain half sanity, to pay for students to help me out. That's it. There is a lot of things that we do that, run here, go do these things. That's fine. I put about $8,000 to $10,000 per year. I pay for my own money to students, just go do me this, That's it. That's just the way it is, okay? We work, like you do, 12 months a year, and every summer, I lose about 15 pounds, and I'm only 130 pounds. I go down to 115, and then it takes 6 months to regain that 15 pounds. But that's it. I mean, this is how it is. We work. But just to give you a comparison of what we did, that service, that outreach community seeks so much donation and goodwill from the community. So it could be money donation, but it would be going to a restaurant and say, instead of charging $8, could you charge us $4 a meal so we can feed our students and take a tax deduction for that. Our program costs $1,500 in the summer. It's a 7-week program. Middlebury, which does the same program, costs $11,000. And similar programs, University of Michigan, Texas, UCLA, all of these cost anywhere between $7,000 to $9,000. We do it for our students for only $1,500. 7 weeks, 20 units of college credit, everything included, come pay $1,500 and go out the door. For high schoolers, and even that $1,500, 90% of our students never pay a penny on it because we get grants for it. So, again, I'm gonna sum it up. How do we balance? We don't balance. We don't balance. We become imbalanced. And this is the only time, I'm going to be honest with you, when I start counting the days of retirement, which is very disappointing. Not because I hate what I'm doing, because you are so burned out that you say, I just want my sanity. Some students show me pictures from 8 years till today. You see that you lost all of your hair. Whatever black hair was has turned white. And even your face starts poking all the way inside. Even my parents say, don't put your hand like this because it's poking even more and more inside. But what I'm saying is, if you either can distance yourself and say, I'm going to do my research, forget about anything else. you know, so that I can my tenure and the emeritus status and so on. Or I say, you know, it's all about our students and our institution. And you know, if it's gonna happen like this, it's gonna take a bad, it's gonna take a toll. So, but it takes a toll on your children. Imagine I'm teaching Arabic to other people. Hundreds of students are learning, but my children, my own children don't speak Arabic. It's a shame. It's my own children, I don't have time to sit with them and then teach Arabic. Something's gonna suffer. So, and that bridging things, good luck to all of you. All of us. We each have our own pathways. Some of us want to give service, some of us want to do research. I think there is merit in all of it. But we're one community that learn from one another. So, thank you so much.
What is the energy level?
You've heard a lot of really great information from people who are much more experienced than I am. And again, Rajrani also is going to be much more in tune in terms of their own personal experience. So in preparing for this, I put together a few different ideas, a few different concepts that have been helpful for me to think about when I'm trying to bridge this gap. And again, I think another point that we're getting at here is that there's a lot of difference among departments, between departments, in terms of how we bridge this divide, bridge these three different sort of land masses. How do we get from one to the other, or build these bridges? Also, different priorities from different schools. So many of us as graduate students came from a school probably where research was more heavily weighted than what we're experiencing here. And so we have sort of cut our teeth in a very different environment than what we find here. And now we have to adjust to a much heavier teaching load. I looked at a few things that people have written, people again who are really really well versed in this and study pedagogy and this kind of thing at the university level. And there's a common refrain that I kept seeing, and that is to urge us not to think of these as zero-sum equations where any loss to our teaching is a gain to our research and any gain to our vice versa. And this is a problem, and Donovan led off with this, and I think it's a really difficult thing to break out of because so often our research is very, very narrow, and it goes into a topic that's what's going to get us published in poli-sci, in history. It's going to be something that's very narrow and very precise. So how do we bring that to our teaching is a constant problem. Because even if we don't see it as a zero-sum between research and teaching, and then again, service, and I have a couple things to say about that. Even if we don't see it as a zero-sum where a loss to one is a gain to the other, often our tasks are very concretely divided, and we all recognize that. We have to sort of, for me, Monday, Wednesday, Friday teaching means I have to cordon off, really brutally cordon off my Tuesday and Thursday in order to try to get some research done and try to get some writing or some editing done. So even if we don't see it as a zero-sum between teaching and research, and we do find ways to inform teaching and research, we still find that we have to allocate time, separate time, to separate tasks. Obviously, writing a lecture is very, very different from revising a chapter. So the work that we're doing is very different. So that's the problem. That's the problem, and I have just a few ideas here, and they work for me, and again, I'm only in my third year, so I might feel very, very differently in my 22nd year. I might feel this is all nonsense, and it's not working. But for the moment, and before I've really come anywhere near Donovan's undersold, I think, excellent publication record, very impressive, especially with these two projects in the pipeline. I have published one article in these last 2 years, and it's actually thanks to Donovan. It's in that series that he's got there, and I'm still kind of germinating and working on my on revising the manuscript that was my dissertation, and hoping that I can send that out now in my third year. And I know the clock's ticking. The clock ticks, and it gets louder and louder when you get into your third and your fourth year. So these are the challenges. A few basic ideas, and these are just sort of bullet point ideas that I should have animated, I guess, and gone one at a time. But the main one here is, the first one is to
broaden our research foundation through teaching and course design. And the idea here is to take the opportunity of teaching a class. Obviously, it's going to be at least peripherally related to our research, if not being a sort of basic foundation of the subject that we end up doing research on, and use the opportunity of teaching it to broaden our foundational understanding. And the idea here is that we don't know everything. We got our degree and our stamp and our seal, and here off we go to be experts. But again, our degrees and our dissertations are often very narrow, and we didn't really learn how to teach. We didn't learn how to teach. We didn't learn how to write. We learned how to research. And the teaching and the writing stuff we have to learn, we're expected to learn on the job. Maybe we did some TA work, and maybe we wrote some articles that fumbled their way into publication as grad students. But as professors, we have to learn those two things. And I think that learning to teach involves acknowledging that we don't know everything. Because I teach, or my research rather, is on Hainan, which is a big island. It's as big as Taiwan, it's as big as Belgium. It's a big place. But many of you maybe have never really heard much at all about the place. It's not a very famous place outside of China. Even within China, people just think of Hongxinyang Dejun. They think of the Red Detachment of Women, the play that Nixon watched when he went to visit. But that's about it. And I can't spend all my time talking about Hainan. I would love to. I would love to spend all my classes saying, okay, here's what you need to know about this island. It's a fascinating place, and it's delightful. But what I can do is inform the way that I put Hainan within the context of the larger Chinese polity and the larger Chinese social structure by bringing that to my teaching. But then another thing that I need to do if I really want to teach my very narrow area of research and do it well is to master the history of Northwest China, Xinjiang, and to master the history of Northeast China and Tibet and all these other places so that I can understand how other frontiers interact with Beijing and then Beijing itself. So what I challenge myself to do in my teaching is to really go into the darkest corners of what I really should know about the foundational aspect of the course that I'm teaching. And I use the opportunity to, it's scary sometimes because I end up designing a lecture on a topic that I really have to prepare that week. But to go into those dark corners of what should be my fundamental understanding of the foundation that I'm building my research on. And so the idea to broaden the foundation of our research is this very narrow spire, depending on how you want to think about it, or very narrow kind of mine shaft that we have, and it's either built on or dug into, whatever metaphor you choose, into this foundational aspect of our work. So we teach courses that should be a very rock-solid foundation, and we should use our opportunities in teaching not to play to our strengths. I'm not going to lecture about Hainan, but to lecture about Xinjiang, and to lecture about Hunan, and to lecture about Beijing, and to lecture about these people that I don't know anything about, but I really have to bone up on them before the lecture. Because that's going to be a footnote in one of my articles. That's maybe going to be a few pages where I say, this guy actually visited Hainan. I didn't know that. I better learn everything there is to know about him. Whether it's Hairei or Sudongpo or Zhongguofan or whoever it is, but I got to learn all about that guy now. I have to learn that, and then I have to say, okay, that's going to be a really substantial thing that other people in my field, when they evaluate my work, are going to say, he doesn't just know Hainan. He hasn't spent the last 20 years just in this little narrow corner of the world, but he's used his teaching as an opportunity to broaden the foundation. Another key idea here is to challenge our students, and this idea is connected. I didn't really check the time. I think about 7 minutes. Okay, and this is something a little bit like Deng Xiaoping said. He says, I feel for the stones as I cross the river. You guys might have heard this one. And the idea was that after the strict structure of the Maoist economy, Deng Xiaoping basically cleaned the slate in 1979, 1980, and he said, okay, we've got to find a new way, and the only way we're going to cross this river is by feeling for the stones underneath the water level. Oh, there's a stone. Okay, there's a stone. And again, this is sort of the idea that from my first point of really throwing kind of throwing these goals in front of you and then trying to make your way to them. And it involves in history. I know Ryan, we've got 395s as our catch-all. Ryan and I are both doing a 395 this winter, and that's a catch-all for a new course that's going to be added and find a permanent home in the curriculum. And if we find these opportunities, usually there's grants involved in them. You say, I want to develop a new course, I want to add a new course. And to do it in a way that's really ambitious and is really feeling for the stones. I'm doing a course on the Silk Roads, and that I am far from an expert on the Silk Roads, but again, the exact idea is that Hainan is way out in the South China Sea, and I'm going to go for Central Asia. I'm going to try to teach this class in Central Asia, and so I spent the summer reading up about it, because that is going to inform my research indirectly, in terms of a comparative on frontier studies. Understanding China is really important to understand frontier studies, and so from Beijing's perspective, I have to understand both the Xinjiang border area, the Tibetan border area, the Mongolian border area, in order to best do a comparative analysis of the maritime border area in Hainan. So bringing these really challenging courses online is not literally online, but into the bulletin is a really important idea for me as an educator, but also what I have to do is I have to trust to my students to deal with this really challenging material and to take that 10-week journey with me. I might try their patience because I don't bring the kind of expertise that a Central Asian scholar would to a Silk Road class. But we're going to go for it, and hopefully we don't crash and burn. I'll tell you in April how this goes. But again, this idea of challenging our students, challenging ourselves. Another thing is to throw academic articles at our students. Get our students reading academic work, and that is sometimes seen as a problem. I don't give them 10 academic articles. I usually give them 1 or 2, and then I have a paper assignment at the end, of short paper, 1,500 words, like 5 pages, where they read an academic article and they have to assess it for content and for form. How is now obviously the undergrads say, I can't judge this titanic scholar in the field on his assessment of the Taiping Rebellion. But I say, just tell me what you think. Summarize the article and tell me what you think. And so they get reading academic work, and I think it's fair to challenge our students in that way. And that's another key idea. I think that our research is not too complicated for our students. It's not. And it shouldn't be. If it is, then it shouldn't be. The challenge, and again, I don't want to make sweeping indictments across the board because I'm speaking just from the perspective of a historian. But our research should not be too complicated for our students. We should be able to explain what we're doing. We don't obviously have the opportunity to go into the same amount of depth. But the challenge to us, ideally, when we go to a publisher as historians, we should hopefully be able to say, I want this book to be assigned to an undergraduate class. That's your wheelhouse for academic publishing. And that means you should be able to articulate this in the classroom and also in an article or in a book-length study in a way that your undergraduates can understand it. Leaving room for exploration and improvisation also has to do with these new courses, adding new courses. But also I leave a few class sessions open because as the course is developing, I find out that I have some people from the National Security Studies MA program in my class, and I see that they want to study a little more contemporary China. They want to do a little bit more on Chinese politics. Or I have people in from literature, and I want to throw in a few short stories or poems that I didn't originally have in the syllabus. Leaving a little bit of room for exploration and improvisation is also leaving room for discovery within teaching, discovery that can then inform our research. I'm mainly talking about how our teaching can inform our research because I think what most of us are finding at this school is that teaching is taking so much of our time. How do we make that teaching inform our research? So that's what I'm emphasizing, by the way. So again, I leave 10 to 20% of the grade as well open, based on participation. And I can throw different things at them. I can say, okay, I need you posting on the Blackboard discussion board. That's going to be your participation. Or I need you in class for group work, for debates. And I leave some room within every one of my syllabuses, about 10 to 20 minutes, for 10 to 20% rather of the syllabus and of the student's grade for this kind of improvisation. And there is a catch-all where I just grade them on participation at the end of the class if I didn't add any radical new elements. But that's the idea, that hopefully we'll have room for discovery and for innovation. Get plenty of feedback. We have our SOTs, but of course we get them too late. We get them in week 11, week 12, week 13 when we're done. I do note cards. I pass around a note card on the first day of class. I pass around a note card on the day after the midterm. And I pass around another note cards for everybody to fill out. And they do them anonymously without their names. On the last day of class. And this is besides the SOTs. And this is where I got an opportunity to hear what the students are nervous about, what they're excited about, what they feel, what they wish they could spend more time on, and that kind of thing. So that direct line of feedback for me, I've found very, very helpful. You hear what undergraduates are excited about. And again, this is our target audience. Even for our research, this is our target audience. Undergraduates, not the three other people and I hate that feeling in the conference room where you just feel like you're yelling into an abyss and there's nobody listening. But ideally our research, if we want to sell the book, we hopefully have reviewers who say, yes, indeed, this is something that is digestible for an undergraduate student. And so hopefully that we keep that in mind in terms of how we craft our research, although that's a big challenge and it takes an extra level of processing. Because we can process it once, process it twice, generate an article that's good for other researchers and other scholars, but then we have to process it again, maybe add another 100 pages. You know, it's a huge task then to make it something that undergrads can process. And that's the last point, is the challenge to explain our research. And in doing that, for me, I find when I give 15 minutes or half an hour to update my students every now and then on what I'm doing, they get excited. They want to read the work that I'm doing. They want to find out what's going on in Hainan in the South China Sea. And I find that this is a really big challenge for me to present that information in a way that's digestible. And I find very quickly that I immediately run up against the snags, the big methodological snags in my work, when I try too early in the process to explain it to undergraduates. Right away it becomes immediately apparent where the sort of dark corners of my research are, because I've tried to articulate it to a group of intelligent young people who are interested in the general topic of my research. I have a few more points, but that's pretty much it. In terms of service, Dorothy mentioned keeping in touch with old advisors. I think that's key. A lot of us have UC connections. A lot of us have other Cal State connections. I think in terms of our research, in terms of our teaching, but then in terms of our service, making those contacts. I was down at UCSD. I know a lot of faculty throughout the SoCal area who are in modern China. Keeping those networks active and alive and tight is going to keep us working. And is going to keep us on the radar of those other professors and keep them on our radar. And it's going to continue to elevate our work. It's going to continue to force us to be plugged into the most up-to-date scholarship in our field. And I think that's a really great opportunity, being here in San Bernardino, having access to SoCal, all of California, but especially the SoCal nexus of scholarship. Okay, thanks.
Okay. This is where we stand actually. Hello all of you. This is one of my favorite blogs. Actually, one of my colleagues told me last year or so. This is a blog you can have a lot of information. Get a life PhD, right? And I don't know if you are a member of it or not. You come to know, you get a lot of emails, and you come to know what you need to do. You can enter your email address, which I already did. Like how to balance, right? I like your last image. How do I balance myself? And as Jeremy mentioned, we need to do research and make research interesting for our students, right? So this is one interesting, how to read a lot, right? So she says, oh, I used to read a lot when I was a grad student, but what happened when I had one child, reading like a single childless grad student, right? You do a lot of reading a grad student with small children. How does that changes? And reading like a new faculty member with small children. I think Ryan fits in that too, right? And I am thinking like, where do I stand with my 22-old month and single mom right now? Like, how will that work? My husband is in Sacramento, so. Okay, so children in the middle school, right? So and you can share this, and she's on the Facebook as well. So I thought this was very useful to have a lot of information, and she writes really well, so get a life PhD blog. I loved it actually. Anyways, so thank you all for staying for my presentation. Okay, what happened? Okay. No images?
Because I didn't set the picture more than this.
Okay. Let me tell you about myself. This is my 6th year and my special year to balance everything. So when I came here, I said, okay, officially it should be my 7th year because I was already on a tenure track, but I wanted to come to California. Then I said, okay, I have to balance everything. And in one of the RPT workshops, somebody told me, this is a workshop, if in your 6th year nobody knows you, you are in a dangerous position, right? So people should know you, like, okay, you even exist in some department. So I remembered that thing, that at least, I hope in a good sense, not in a bad sense, but that was one thing which I took from that CFA workshop when they had various RP sessions. So I thought, okay, I have to keep that thing in mind. I have to do good research because that will count. And my chairman said, Raj, you have to get 1 S, right? So I got letters, you're doing good and all, but we still want to know which is the one you want to push for S. So I said, okay, still they're not confused, I'm doing everything well. I'm trying to maintain my research. I am a, faculty advisor for my student association. I try to coordinate the Geography Awareness Day since I came here. This is my 6th year, but we started this doing from last 3 years. And I also had the International Geographic Honor Society started in 2010, right? So I think I'm doing all this, and I'm trying to be active outside my own department, and I'm going to different committees. So what else is missing? So somebody said, don't go for the services, right? That's going to be the minimum. So when you mentioned, services and what Dorothy said, oh, service is so important, and listening to you, I was like, it was so contagious just listening to you guys, like, oh my goodness, you can see the impact factor, and don't get into the committees. So I'm just telling you what I heard and what I kept with me and how do I feel today. So anyways, for me, I think, we all can discuss, we want to discuss on this. I think for me, research is a lifeline of teaching, I feel motivated and inspired when I go back and I read, and say, okay, I'm doing good. And I can, apply all that ideas to my class. As you also mentioned, some of them you can and some of them you can. When I stand in front of the class, I think, okay, what I'm going to offer, what I have been doing here in my research, different topic, different regions. And I'm actually fortunate that what research I do, that's my research interest, what I'm teaching. So I'm teaching urban geography, I'm doing GIS, I'm doing human geography where I can bring my South Asian experience. I'm from South Asia, India, so I can bring that. So I think it keeps teaching for me updated. I know, okay, what's going on out the world and whatnot. Then I can bring out new, because I teach GIS, which is Geographic Information System. So if I stop with whatever software I started learning, I would be a stagnant water. That's what I think. So I have to, go to ESRI and take all these classes, virtual classes, and sometimes instructor-led classes, okay, where the technology is going. Because if I come back, learn, I can go and, disseminate the knowledge. So that's one, and really push them to, and obviously I think it motivates the students because at the end of the day, they're looking for what do I get if I get a GIS certificate. I'm a coordinator of our GIS program here at CSUSB. So, end of the day, so if people are we are having more students coming for GIS, they want to end up in a good job, right? So I say, you're going to earn more jobs if you do your master's in GIS and so on and so forth. So I think the application of new technology techniques, we have all social science research council, we have so many workshops. It's for all of us so that we get inspired and do our research and disseminate to our students. It's just not to keeping knowledge with ourselves. That's what I think. this is one example which I'm doing human geography, which I really teach after 2-3 years, but this is one of my favorite. It's a general ed class. So I have 63 students, but I do bring my research cases, whatever I have done, my master's thesis. I did 2 degrees, I did my bachelor's, master's, and master of philosophy in India in geography. So when I came to US in 2001, I did my master's in geography and planning, so another thesis, and then I did my PhD, right? So I think I did 4 or 5 theses overall, right? So I bring all that results in my classes whenever I'm teaching. So I do bring that, because I want to share that. One image is missing, I don't know why. I did my master's thesis here in linguistic diversity in India, 71, 91, and 2001. I don't know why this map is not visible here. So I talk about the languages and linguistic diversity. So I bring them a case study of India, and this was 2001. All those regions which having high linguistic diversity are economically developed, right? So I talk about that. We just talked about like last few weeks back when we talked about the languages, what language do we speak here, and different languages, so learning a different language and all is an asset. This is a basic introductory course in geography. So then I have this blackboard, which I think most of us have, isn't it? Most of us are using. And my blackboard, I try to make it pretty rich. So as I wrote few encyclopedia entries as well. One was on Little India, which has already been published. So I have 4 encyclopedia, 3 edited books, and 3 journals. So I'm a work in progress still, that's what I think. Right, so this was, we just was talking about ethnic enclaves. So we take some field trips as well to a Sikh temple, which I did last winter, 2012, and they loved it. And I gave them, okay, guys, write an extra credit on that. So that's what I did. So I tried to bring, I use my blackboard, I just want to show you quickly, as a research tool, whatever research interests which I have or which I want them to have, I post them on the blackboard. So I'll just show you my quick web links, which I have been enriching in all these years. And I, copy into other classes too if I want. Just quickly. Okay. Oops. I'm going to show 5 minutes. So we talk about Hollywood and Bollywood, like racial segregation, and then I use a lot of web mapping, like GIS skills, and none of our human geographers, and apart from GIS, nobody knows GIS as such. So I'm trying to bring out spatial thinking and geospatial skills, even to my non-GIS students, and that was a hit in my summer course which I did, and I introduced them to GIS, and everybody loved it. So we get more students, and they learn more technology, rather than just the theoretical aspects. So you can see these are some of the web mapping links. Race in America, this is New York Times, Immigration Explorer. So just talking about the topic doesn't make sense until you start bringing what's happening outside the world and bringing out resources. This is just a small web map. I'm just going to quickly, so people get, oops, this is how we change, So this tells us how diverse we are. This was 1880 us. And look at different countries where we all have migrated from. And if, this is a good way to explain population, migration, immigration, culture, ethnic enclaves. Why are we diverse? Why do we have more Mexican food and so on? So, we have to keep them interested and bring out other stuff from other parts of the area. So as I said, you can bring in. So then I have these are all web links. And videos as well, some of them, and you can take a geography quiz. And I have some of my articles, as I said, I wrote it on Little India, so I just already published, so I posted here. It's just like 2-3 page entries, right? So just to keep them happening, what's really going on. So I think this really gives them a little idea to, resources. Okay, and as this is all about the web mapping as well, I want them to get motivated. So I also use my research skills, which I learn in teaching, and it's vice versa, because when I stand, I don't say, okay Raj, you're not going to speak about this, you're just going to focus on this. It doesn't happen, right? I didn't come planned, I just made few slides, but when I stand in front of an audience, I think you just speak, right? It just comes out. You just say, okay Raj, don't speak this, don't speak that, right? It just comes out automatically. Right? So we must have some plan, that's a different story, but we just don't tell ourselves, okay, just stop now, right? Apart from, So So when we are having different learner experience, academic endeavors in different countries, regions, while I'm flying, you know, when I'm collecting my data, when I get research grants or so on, that pushes me and motivates me for my students to, hey, you guys should do this or do a small independent study. So I have a few students working with me on independent study right now actually. So my data collection experience, qualitative and quantitative, so I tell them, hey, you have to do an urban project. And I will tell you in my 321 classes, I was very impressed by the way students went to Claremont. They all went to different downtowns of California in, you know, our nearby areas, and they wrote a paper and they did a PowerPoint presentation. And that was so inspiring for me. You know, I had their presentation for Claremont and Riverside. I came to know about their cities in a very different manner when two of them went field trip walking and, you know, Little Tokyo and Little Arabic town and so on and so forth. Right, so one of the recent students, she's currently working with Y. San Bernardino, went bankrupt. So, and she's using GIS as well. So that's inspiring. So I said, maybe we should have a publication tomorrow, later, you know, future. I pushed her to do that. And then, you know, I think more research, how it helps. As I said, I feel like I'm running water. If you remember, I said the blog really helps as well. If I do nothing, just teach and go back home, you know, I'm just stressed with teaching, which I do. I am really stressed, you know, I have to like, okay, my son, okay, sleep, and I have an alarm at 3 so that I wake up when he's sleeping, you know, otherwise I have that guilt. I sleep at 8, frankly speaking, I wake up early because I am an early person. So, you know, I go to the conference presentation and I agree with you, Dany, that, you know, I agree with in some session there are some only 3 or 5 or 10 or only those people who really knows you. You know, I have seen some sessions, and specifically when we had conferences in Vegas or so, forget it. You know, we just have the organizer and the other person, right? We didn't have a conference in Vegas, so I just was saying. And motivating students to go to student conferences. We have student conferences here at our own campus, and I have that flyer, hey, we need more journal editors or whatnot. And one of our colleagues in another university, he has sent us that we need some undergraduate student papers. So if my students or our students at undergrad level do no research, I feel shameful that there's no paper. He just sent me a call, Raj, did you get some papers? I said, yeah, they're working on independent study. Can you see that? Until they are themselves motivated to write something, do research, experience for a field trip, how do we think like, okay, research, you're out, just do teaching, right? I think I will not grow mentally, frankly speaking, I just teach, then I don't think I will be different from any school teacher or so. It's not that they are less, but you can see, you know, you have to really grow. And submitting undergraduate papers to students. This is, I also invite my own student. This is one of a very good student, but he was a very shy guy. I never thought that he would, you know, become what he has today. So he did his bachelor's with us, he did his certificate in GIS with us. Then he went to be motivated, you know, we always motivate, okay, go ahead and don't just stop and get a job and be happy. You know, if you are interested, there are some good students, go and do your master's if you're good in GIS. And he said, yes, I want to. He did a 1-year course which is very exhaustive, and he landed a very good job when you do GIS here. So he went to master's in GIS, and the best part was we had a conference, applied geography conference in, I think, October 11 at Redlands, and I was doing a presentation, and he was already doing masters, and he was in my presentation, and you know, that was the best part, which I really liked, that one of our students from here is sitting and listening to what I'm doing in my Silicon Valley of South area. Anyways, so he came here, now he's already done his master's, and he's hired in a very good environmental firm in Redlands. So he explained his, you know, what he did in his master's thesis and inspired the students. And this is the first time we are doing a GIS class for 43 students. We don't go more than 25. So this is a very pioneer class in my very special year. So, and we are having evaluation for all the classes. So everything is all piling up, but that doesn't matter. Students were very inspired and motivated. So that's what the best part. So I thought, why should I stop here? Even there are 43 students, right? So I took them to the field trip to ESRI GIS, because that's where software comes from in my geography classes, and that's what they get motivated. So I said, generally I take them when they're at the end of the quarter, like probably when they do the last classes of the certificate, you know, at least do some more GIS, get some more confident, and then let's go to ESRI. This year I thought, why should I wait for the 400 level course? Why not, they're 43, let me do something more pioneer with them, because this is the first time we are doing this. Let me take them to the campus from this year onward when they are just in the intro level course. So they went, and they were 43, and this Professor Michael Phoenix, he said, Raj, we can take more than 20 because they all have to go to the building where the GIS campus, people are working on the software. You can just have 43 people roaming in the corridors, right? And going to their labs. So we took 2 days in the lab time from 10 to 12. This is Redlands. So, and the best part, very interesting for me too and challenging, I have one student, she can't hear. So I have to put the mic and speak it loud to her. And I have another, and she is like 50. And I have another student, there's some person who types for him, right? So he's another. I have one more student. This is the first time in all these years of my history in teaching overall. I have one student who's all doing technical courses, imagine, with labs, with computers, and he's 70 years old. 70, right? And it pushes me and inspires, and I said, look, so that is really, though they need some little extra time and whatnot, and I don't have a TA, so next year when we do this course again, we need a TA. There's 43 students. So anyways, we took, I don't know why this picture is not visible here, it was visible. Anyway, so these are two different pictures. And finally the service and outreach, as I said, I am trying to we have a Geography Wednesday, we have meetings and so on. What I did was, for my classes here, I try, you all have such a nice Chinese lecture. Remember when I forgot the name of the professor.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes, sorry. I love that talk, right? Because when I said I want to learn more about China, and when I stand in front of the class, I know what's really going on. The book review was wonderful, right? So all these NEH grant series, that has always helped me, attending your session too with one of the Arabic speaker in one of the NEH grant, right? You give the books and whatnot. So I go there to see all this, which one fits my schedule. And I said, why should only I go and listen? You guys it's happening for you. So I tell them, hey, the university is spending money, bringing speakers for all. I was in this intellectual visiting scholars committee, and I was seeing how interesting professors are working around to bring scholars from all different fields, and we are paying them and whatnot. So what are you guys doing? Go and listen to them, right? So what I do is, which in the bigger class, they always lose points in the quizzes and the exams, and they need more points, right? So I said, okay, go to the powwow, which was here, in October sometime. I went, when I came, I was really mesmerized, such a cultural aspect which was happening here. And then there was a panel on Muslim diversity where we had 3 professors, AJ and Betty Mohammed and Asma, right? So they all talked about, they were Muslim women, and they talked about the Muslim diversity. So I sent them, how do I come to know? They all went, I am reading their extra credit now. And they have wonderful explanations. And then we had the Day of the Dead celebration. So they attended that. So I also had now 2 more last extra credit, because I'm going to India end of this month. So okay, last 2 extra credits. So I think I forgot her last name, Ghazala. Radhika Ghazala, she's again a South Asian geographer. She's going to present today. So they're going to go, if they can make it, they haven't made. And I tell them to attend any 2 extra credit, not just 1, right? And finally, we are having this Geography Awareness Day, 21st November, which is already mentioned here. She's a very well-known urban geographer, Professor Ricky Sanders, who's going to talk about invisible cities, city visible. And I think this is a hot topic, not only for geographers, for urban sociologists, historians, political scientists, communications and whatnot, And that's it, I think. And I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to, yeah, that will be all for the time being. And thank you so much.